Mel Gibson was absolutely correct when he stated these famous words: "Creating life to simply destroy it is wrong." Abortion is a very controversial and subjective topic that has been debated and rationalized around the world for thousands of years. Abortion has been legal as early as the first settlers inhabited the United States. Around 1800 is when states began legislating rules to make abortion illegal. I personally advocate for the pro-life premise and firmly agree with the illegalization of abortion within America. I do not agree with the murdering of an innocent human with any circumstance. It's inhumane, barbaric, and cruel. That being said, I hope my reasoning and logic as to why I advocate this potentially changes your mind and persuades you. CDC presents that roughly 600,000 abortions are being committed each year. The problem is simply the amount of faultless babies being terminated yearly. I believe it is a separate life, and they have freedom and chance to live just like you did. Many people from the left that agree with the pro-choice stance have a hard time executing what I'm proposing for many reasons, but one is they say it's a violation of a woman's rights and it's their body, generally making it hard to convince anybody advocating for legal abortion. I'm not generalizing women and telling them what they can and can't do with their own body. I actually strongly agree and am all for women's liberty and freedom. But when it comes to the killing of an innocent, separate life, is when I have a problem and feel obligated to speak for somebody who can't speak for themselves. People from the pro-choice community also say that abortions are necessary when it comes to the health of the mother. In other words, an abortion needs to be commenced when the baby is directly affecting the mother's life. This just isn't true. Actually, 30,000 doctors say an abortion is never medically necessary to save the mother's life. The alternative is a C-section or labor induction by the mother's own physician, and the mortality rate of a C-section is 0.002%, which is obviously harshly low. Another misconception about abortion is the fetus isn't alive, so an abortion isn't necessarily killing a living human. This is also what I consider wrong, and according to the studies of Colette, 96% of biologists believe life begins at conception. Constituting life at fertilization is the only stable and viable argument. Some try to say a heartbeat constitutes life. Well, the heartbeat, according to the Healthline Parenthood, may be first detected as early as 5 to 6 weeks, and women don't usually find out they're pregnant until 6 weeks. So, by their definition of life, they will still be committing murder. These are just a few out of the multiple arguments I've heard from the left and people in general, but I cannot discuss them due to time complications. I'm not only proposing to make abortions 100% illegal in the United States, but I would also defund Planned Parenthood as the government spends $500 to $600 million a year on this federation, and instead use that money to reform the foster care systems as well as adoption centers. I would also form a completely different agency just to speed up the adoption process, because there are about 2 million couples in America that are waiting to adopt right now. For the grace of our country not being overpopulated, I would also like to implement education towards young men and women about safe sex more often, and make sex ed a required class in high school, as well as freely giving out condoms so students don't feel pressured to have unsafe sex. I would much rather have students and people in general have the option and availability to get free protection whenever they're in need than face the alternative, an unwanted pregnancy. The solution in regard to abortion is simply having the government implement legislation to legalize abortion as a whole with no circumstances, unless the facts I've gathered are incorrect and birthing a child could directly affect the mother's life. Then in that instance, I believe an abortion should be considered. If my solution was implemented, it would undoubtedly be a step closer to equality and freedom towards the future American citizens. We would also see an abundance of kids getting adopted and fostered, which from personal experience can be a great, loving experience for both the kid finding a loving parent and the parent finding a kid to love. If you are already in agreement with my stance, feel free to check out the Population Research Institute and sign the petition in support of every human having the right to inherent life. I strongly believe in a society where everybody gets a chance to experience life, succeed, and find happiness. This is just one of those steps to achieving that goal. I hope I've demonstrated the main positives stemming from the pro-life premise, as well as gave different ideology to change your mind for the better. Thank you.